Southern Africa has demonstrated how African countries implementing the TIR Convention can reduce dramatically the costs of trade in the region. Joined now by William Petty, who's head of the Regional Committee for Africa at the International Road Transport Union. Good evening to you, William. It seems like a lot can be done with smoothing trade between African countries.
Yeah, good evening, David. Absolutely. We're the world trade body that represents the road transport sector. So broadly, we care about anything that impacts on how efficient, how costly it is to move goods and people by road. There's a lot of talk. We all know about the huge potential for trade growth, in particular in sub-Saharan Africa. But also we know about the transport costs and how that can impact on the potential for that trade growth. Often people talk about a figure of 40% of the final cost of goods being sort of attributable to transport. And so anything that we can do to reduce that can have a huge impact on economic growth. The cost of moving goods in transit, the cost of acquiring a transit bond is a part of those transport costs. And with this report, we've shown that if countries in Africa implement the TIR Convention, that they can make huge reductions in that component of the transport cost.
William, it's Gugu here with David. Paint a picture for us as to what the TIR actually is and how it works.
Okay, so the TIR is a transit system. It's the world's only universal transit system. It's based on a UN convention. The convention dates since 1975, but the TIR system has actually been operating since 1949. Basically, instead of if you're moving goods across a country and you're not importing those goods, you're not exporting those goods from that country, you're just simply moving them across that customs territory. You need to have some sort of bond that satisfies customs that if those goods are to disappear onto that customs territory, that they don't lose the revenue. So normally what that means is at a national level, you have to have a bond in one country, then you have to have a bond in the next country, and then you have to have another bond in another country. And with a sort of a multilateral transit system like TIR, you don't need that. You can just once have one single guarantee. So that simplifies things, but also reduces the costs. There have been lots of efforts in sub-Saharan Africa to introduce regional transit schemes, which effectively provide the same solution. But there have been huge challenges with that. Typically, the challenges are it's very, very difficult for one customs administration to recognize the validity of a guarantee that's been placed in another customs administration in a neighboring country. And also it's been very, very difficult to find ways for customs administrations to talk to each other. So for the information technology systems to be able to sort of effectively trace the movement of those goods. TIR is a universal system that already exists, and so it's something that could easily be applied in the region.
William, border management is one of your areas of expertise. You spent 2 years in Senegal working there. It does seem such an obvious and easy target for greater efficiencies. One thinks of the border between South Africa and Zimbabwe with people literally queuing for days. It's not as if they don't know what the traffic's going to be. Is there an issue of political will here as well as simple logistic solutions?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we see huge efforts, for example, between SADC, COMESA, and EAC, who are now working at a tripartite level to really try to crack these issues. I was with the Secretariat from the Southern African Customs Union in Windhoek last week, for example. So we don't really see a problem in terms of political will. It's more just awareness of the potential solutions that are out there. And it's a question of not necessarily needing to reinvent the wheel, but applying something that already works. A lot of the solutions that are being people are trying to put in place at the moment focus, as you say, on how can you refine certain procedures at Beitbridge, for example. But actually what TIR does, it's a bit more innovative than that. It's not about refining procedures at a border and shaving 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. It's actually about taking away those procedures completely. So, for example, if you're looking at a movement along the north-south corridor from Durban up to Lubumbashi, a lot of those procedures at Beitbridge, at Chirundu, would be taken away, and instead you just do a procedure at Durban and you do a procedure at Kasumbalesa or Lubumbashi, and that's where the streamlining comes from. And on top of that, there ought to be a direct reduction in costs, because a TIR guarantee, as we've shown in our study, looks like it would be much, much cheaper than the existing solutions.
Looking at your map, William, as to where the TIR strategy has been implemented, talk to us about some of the successes and if you can quantify the economic contribution that's been made to the countries here and perhaps how that might work to motivate countries like Angola, Mozambique and Botswana here who actually aren't part of the strategy just yet.
So TIR is currently operating, well, there are 70 contracting parties to the UN Convention. Most of them are across the sort of Eurasian landmass. China is the latest country to have implemented the system, so we're currently working with them to implement TIR. We're also currently working with Pakistan to implement TIR, and we're also working with UAE. In sub-Saharan Africa, we're at an awareness-raising stage. The convention has typically been a Eurasian solution. It's expanded from a Western European agreement, kind of across from land border to land border. So it's only really in recent years that we've been in a position with our counterparts at the UN to really raise awareness of the TIR Convention as a global convention that can work in sub-Saharan Africa. We're doing the same in Latin America. We're doing the same in Southeast Asia, and we can show, and as we've done with this study, the impact that it could have.
Well, certainly sounds like huge potential in this project. That's William Petty, head of the Regional Committee for Africa at the International Road Transport Union.